Hey everyone, this is George Leon of Sovereign Key. This is a follow-up video from the last video, and I'm going to be supplying more evidence and affirming previous evidence from that last video, specifically in relation to the bodies of Jupiter and Saturn representing the watchers of this duality matrix. We are within their holographic construct, along with the feminine element Alcyone, who altogether they make up the trinity of this system, and that is shown by the symbols behind me. And yeah, so those codes have been uncovered. So I'm going to be introducing more codes in this segment. So please follow the evidence, specifically that I've put out in the description box. The reason I put it in the description box is because mainly for copyright reasons, and that I can't really play long segments without getting copyright violations or being at risk of that. So I find it easier to just put the whole batch in the description, and usually people can gather much more through seeing the whole segment rather than just even selecting short little blurbs. So please follow the evidence if you want to gather all the evidence pieces and put all those puzzle pieces together, because like I said, it's like a game, and the truth has been appointed to be released. So it is just a matter of recognizing those pieces, decoding the symbology, and then forming basically a tapestry that forms and assembles the bigger picture. And that usually does give the answers to a lot of the mysteries that as a window of opportunity, they do have to release it, the truth. However, it's always veiled. And just like the Bible is in many ways presents allegorical accounts that veils truth, it is the same with movies, mythology, books. They do give information that does allow for the greater truth to be assembled and eventually figured out in many respects. So thank you for joining me on this journey, because essentially that's what you guys have done. I'm a seeker, you're a seeker. You've been following my journey of seeking. I like to think I've come a long way since the last 3 years, since the biggest secrets of the age, where a lot of the truths of the convergence of the event horizon, which is the cyclical celestial convergences that take place that mark the end of the age and the marking of a new era. So, but the knowledge has been refined since back then. I haven't stopped seeking. And just because I don't produce videos very often, that doesn't mean that I'm not seeking. And sometimes that complicates things because I'm getting ready to prepare a production, and then I get new information, and then I have to try and figure out how I'm going to slot that new information into the existing project. So yeah, sometimes, yeah, it can feel a little overwhelming, but I'm doing my best. And yeah, thanks for sticking with me, even through some of the mistakes that have been made on that journey of seeking. And my information is evolving, just as hopefully all our awareness and information is evolving through this journey through time. So I just want to make note as well that I have applied some corrections. So if you go into the description box, you may see some of the information has been changed in the description, and that's and mainly I've found, though, even with those errors, it's because there is a law of confusion applied in these works of music and movies. It can be very, very difficult and tricky navigating that at times. So I've essentially made some errors, but I have not taken anyone off track, because the information is still all relative to the pending convergences that see to the ignition of the new suns for the new age. And so, yeah, okay, some of the details where I've tried to be very precise. There's been some minor errors, mainly in misidentifying Jupiter archetypes as Saturn archetypes. I've noticed that's where most of my errors have been. But really, it doesn't really make a difference because they both represent the beasts of Revelation. They've both been kings. They're represented as kings of the earth that Alcyone rules over. Alcyone, who's commonly referenced as the whore of Babylon, who rules over the kings of the earth. It is these planetary / star bodies that are coded as being the kings of the earth, the rulers of the earth, and because this is their duality matrix, essentially. It is Saturn and Jupiter, as evidenced, that are the foundational creation pillars of this matrix. So it is essentially, they're running the show for now, until Mother puts the finishing touches on the ignitions as the spark to the flames of Saturn and Jupiter, and a third body yet to be identified. So yeah, so this segment, I'm going to be identifying the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse / Revelation, the 4 horsemen mentioned in the book of Revelation, that do tie into events that occur during the end of the age cycle. And the record is there because these are repeating cycles. So the specific marker events can be recorded because they are repeating cycles. And so the record keepers do know the specific events that do occur. For example, earthquakes, tsunamis, plagues upon the earth, the plagues of Moses that occurred through a previous cycle. And so, yes, this work is in highlighting what is to come and what we should be prepared for now, where this whole platform of climate change is basically government's way of preparing the population for the inevitable climate changes and shifts to come as a result of primarily celestial means and conjunctions. So, okay, without further ado, I'm just going to present some evidence pieces because, like I said, I've tried to make this channel platform a platform of evidence, to supply evidence wherever we can, because I feel that bold claims do require a responsibility to try and evidence and to make as many attempts to evidence as possible. So this is why I have tried to apply several examples, numerous examples of even sometimes affirming the same code, because I want to supply as much as I can. And please check out our folders that are marked in accordance to the convergence materials relating to the Trinity, the prime bodies of the Trinity that will be converging. So those folders are marked to Saturn, Jupiter, and Alcyone. Numerous codes and clues are inserted by design within those materials, and you will find that a lot of those codes will correlate. They will correlate from materials that are evidenced through decades, that these codes do correlate. So they don't tend to change, even though a law of confusion is applied by the elites. And that just seems to be, part of their game, that is a rule for them, that they often do apply that. So it has been very difficult to navigate that. And Jupiter and Saturn are very, very similarly coded, because they are twin brothers. They are the twin brothers, Cain and Abel. Cain, Saturn, Abel, Jupiter. So again, most of my errors have been in getting them mixed up sometimes, but ultimately it's rather inconsequential because ultimately they are going to collide and ignite through a form of celestial nuclear fusion in conjunction with Alcyone and the Pleiades system, that entry as the celestial gears turn towards the end of the age. So, okay, I'll just start the evidence, and yeah, I will be evidencing in this segment how Jupiter and Saturn are the watchers. They do record all our thoughts and deeds. We are within their AI quantum server. So they are the system lords of this matrix. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. Now, first off, I'll start off by going back to this code, the Chaldean code. Now, the Chaldean numerology is one of the most ancient Babylonian numerical system. It's actually older than the Kabbalah-based gematria number system and is said to be more accurate. I tend to follow the Chaldean and give that precedence over the Kabbalistic model. I'm sure there are very close similarities, but this is a very important code to Saturn being 21. This 21 code unlocks a lot of knowledge and mysteries. So I will put that back in the forefront of people's minds, even though I have covered it before. Now, what you'll find is if I do repeat information, which I don't usually tend to like to do because it's not really fair on those who are following the work if I'm just repeating information ad nauseum. But if I do repeat information, it's because they're usually key evidence pieces and key codes. And so they're very, very important and vital. So, okay, Saturn is coded to 21 and keep that in mind. Here is a diagram of the 4 horsemen of Revelation, the apocalypse. Now we have the white horse, who is the war, who we've already stated is what kicks off the Antichrist beast system when the seals are opened or broken. And we have announced that, yes, that process has essentially proceeded, and that is the horse that begins the conquest of the Antichrist and the beast system and all the preceding trials and tribulations that are a result of that system being unleashed and those beasts being unleashed. Second horse, you have the red horse, which is the horse of war and sees to war being unleashed upon the earth. The third horse, an interesting, Saturn is coded to 21, 2 plus 1 is 3. So that's the black horse, and the black horse represents famine. And the fourth horse represents pestilence and death. So essentially as a result of plagues. And I guess in this case, it'll be greater plagues. So that's just to introduce those bodies. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to firstly identify the black horse. And the black horse of Revelation, this one was not that difficult to crack because all I had to do was apply the numerology of the black horse of the Ferrari logo into the Chaldean calculator. So inserting Ferrari. So keep in mind, Saturn is coded to 21. Ferrari, you'll find, is also coded to 21 because the black horse is the symbol of Saturn. And Set, who is Saturn, when we go back to Egyptian mythology, which, like I said, even mythology is encoded. Now, Set is known as the Lord of the Desert. And so the effects of Set, i.e. Saturn, is going to bring drought. And the effects that he's going to bring onto the earth is going to result in crop failures and famine as a result of that. So the reason I decoded and identified the black horse first is because in knowing that Saturn is the twin to his brother Abel, being Jupiter, that will actually reveal, just through the power of deduction, that the white horse is Jupiter, because they are the twin pillars of the duality model. So where we see Saturn coded as black on the checkerboard, Jupiter is coded as his counterpart as the white. And deciphering the rest of these horsemen of the apocalypse was not difficult once realizing that they're planets, that's what these horsemen are. So then basically it's just a matter of running through and identifying the relevant planets, i.e. stars, that are part of these bodies that are going to be bringing tribulation through celestial alignments. So let's identify then another horse. So the second horseman is the red horse. And all we have to do is then look to the red planet, which is Mars. And Mars is associated as being the planet of war. And so that tells us that the red horse of Revelation is Mars. And there's only one remaining horse from there. And now we have one final horse, being the pale horse. And so what I did in my search, I thought in my mind it's either going to be Uranus or Neptune. But when I was seeking this out, I just typed in pale Uranus, and there was my answer. The view of pale blue-green Uranus. So we know that the pale horse of Revelation is Uranus. It can't be Neptune because he is visualized as being a brighter blue, not pale. So there we have it, guys. White horse is Jupiter, red horse is Mars, black horse is Saturn, and the pale horse is Uranus. And these are the four horsemen of the apocalypse and Revelation, and is going to be through their effects at particular conjunctions that are going to bring energetic impacts into our earthen environment. And they are also going to influence the minds of humankind to perform certain actions, because the stars do influence us. That is a fact. Whether we like that or not, we are made in the image of the stars. Therefore, they do have a form of dominion over our mind and our flesh. And yet we are here to resist certain pulls upon the flesh and innate desires, because we have the beast, the lower mind, the carnal mind, in the material plane of these fallen angels, these reapers. And it is God's angels that reap the earth at harvest. And these are the angels in this fallen underworld system. And yet we are here to overcome their dominion in this fallen world system. That is what we are here to do. We are here to get out of this prison matrix. And we do that by behaving ultimately in good spirit to tip the scales in our favor within the duality frame of this matrix. And just to further affirm, so the game Blackjack 21 where the object of the game is to beat the dealer with 21, and the dealer, the chief warden of this fallen world system, is Saturn. And so he is the black jack, or should I say the black yak. And I did cover the the yaks, the union of yaks, because these stars and planets are not just coded to bulls, they've also coded to horses, obviously, as just shown. But the way symbology is applied, it can be applied in many ways. And so, I mean, Jupiter and Saturn are coded as other animals, for example, tigers, coded as, I actually wrote a list here because there's just so many, coded as lions, coded as dragons, dogs, wolves, even pigs, and hippos. And I'm going to show that hippo code later on in regards to the hungry yaks and hungry horses and dragons and lions, which all represent particular bodies in the way that symbology is applied. It's just a matter of identifying the codes and then identifying what symbols belong to what body and what their function is. So there you go. That's just to further affirm that code. And that's what I like to do. I like to affirm codes, because once you can decode the symbols, basically you know what's going on, and you know what the account is actually saying. This brings us to Bill and Ted. Now, this is a movie that I've already covered. I'm showing it again because it is a potent form of evidence in identifying the twin architects, the twin bodies that are the architects of this world system. They are called wild stallions. This is a reference to the symbology as horses, because they are the horsemen of Revelation, Bill and Ted. And I'll just say right now, because I've decoded and identified who these bodies are. So Bill is Saturn, Ted is Jupiter. And let's just play some footage and I'll apply some commentary. Now you're going to see here, and this is how subtle these codes are revealed. So in introducing them, and even the smoke is a code. I don't fully understand this code, and just because I can identify codes, it doesn't mean that I know how to interpret all of them. But I've shown the smoke evidence in regards to these celestial bodies and how they are coded as being smoking bodies. So that's just to show that code again. And the sign on top of the garage door states, "Quiet please, wild stallions recording," because Jupiter and Saturn are the prime watchers, along with Alcyone. But there it is. This is the reveal right here. Now, another important visual here ties into the evidence pieces that I showed last time in the description box, and how these two bodies are going to be responsible for earthquakes and meteor impacts. So this is where you see the cracked Earth. Now I'm going to go into another highly revelatory film, and that's Dude, Where's My Car? And again, you've got two principal characters here representing Saturn and Jupiter. Jesse is representing Saturn, and we've already stated that Saturn is Adam as well as Cain, and that Saturn was, what we know as Saturn was once part of a larger body, and through previous celestial collisions was split up into smaller pieces. So what we see of Saturn was part of a larger body. This is where you get Cain being part of Adam and Jupiter being part of the original Adam. The major clue that Jesse is Saturn, Adam, is through this diagram on the wall right here. And that says, "Are you properly sedated?" And that's in relation to Adam being sedated. And you will see here as well a fire reference as well to Saturn, because he is going to bring fire. Even though he is a nice body, he is going to bring fire to the Earth. And as mentioned, both Jupiter and Saturn are coded as the policemen, the ice pole men, that are responsible for law and order and judgment upon the Earth. And they do watch, and then they apply judgment towards the end of the cycle as harvesters. And there is a harvesting code in this same scene. And I will just go and track it. I'm starving. Did you hear that? He says he's starving. Now, he's looking at a primate here. Now, I'm going to go back to the Scarface code. That's another vital film that reveals a lot of potent encoded information in relation to the planets and what happens towards the end of the age. And Tony Montana, playing Jupiter, was referred to as a little monkey. And you'll see Chester here. He's the archetype of Jupiter. And so that's why the monkey is in frame there in relation to him in scene. Now, this is a perfect example of how codes are inserted, and if you blink, you will miss it. And this is like, I had to literally find a freeze frame on this because I felt that they were going to be revealing something potent here, and I was right. They did. If you look closely right here, and it is hard to see, there's a sticker here and says, "You are being watched." And that is in reference to these two bodies and the fridge. They're opening a fridge because they are cold bodies. That's the code there. This is just how, again, you got to see this. You got to be able to put the clues together. And they are associated with the refrigerator because they're known as ice bodies. The Jovian bodies are cold bodies. And so, but they are the harvesters. And you'll see here, there's a figure with the hammer of judgment. And there's also a little monkey as well on the sticker. They've basically got a year's supply of pudding. Now, as I stated, they are the harvesters at the end of the age. And where this movie begins is at the point of where they have harvested the Earth. And so they've got a fridge full of pudding. The pudding is representative of all the beings that have been harvested. And again, I showed in the last round of evidence that Jupiter and Saturn are the harvesters and they are the watchers. So again, people can think this is all silly. They can think that I'm just trying to pull this out of my proverbial, but you would be mistaken. The truth is allowed for those with the eyes to see and for those that seek ardently. And if you are not an ardent seeker, then you will not be putting in the effort to putting these puzzle pieces together. Now, I've been a seeker since a teenager, so I have been hungry for the truth. And those who are hungry for the truth will have taken the time to have gone through the evidence pieces that have been supplied, and it will start making more and more sense. But if you don't, and there's a part of me that it doesn't really faze me, because I know that the way this has been designed, even by the designers, even the way this game is played within this labyrinth, is that the keys are given, but it's given to those who are worthy of it. And I'm not trying to sound boastful in that, but I have put in literally thousands of hours into this. And yeah, okay, seeking, sometimes it can feel like you're chasing your tail, and I've been in that situation plenty. And so I say, like, to be a truth seeker, like a genuine truth seeker, and to sincerely yearn for it in your heart, you've got to put in the time, you've got to put in the effort. Okay, there's a whole world of distractions, of things you could be putting your time into, all manner of vices. But I've seeked, and I like to think that I've gotten the rewards and the fruit for that labor. So I'm honored because I still feel I've been given gifts of the Spirit in order to see these things and to gather this evidence and to collect it and to assemble it for other seekers to find. And I know that those who are meant to find us, regardless of the suppression that's gone on of this channel, I know that those who are meant to be guided to us will be guided, and those who are meant to recognize the information for what it is will recognize it. And I have a peace in me about that. Let the chips fall where they may in that regard. So, okay, moving on. Yeah, finish that little speech. Okay, so back to the 21 code. 21 Savage. Now this music clip, and again, this is a piece of evidence that I've shown before. And again, if I repeat evidence, it's because it's vital. This music video is showing the war in heavens, okay, and essentially the war between Jupiter and Saturn, who are going to collide. They are going to literally have celestial convergences, collisions towards the end of the age, towards the climax. And as I've stated, Saturn is not only Adam, but he is also Cain, because we are dealing with an allegorical account. And this is why I say, if people cannot see that the Bible is in many ways presented through allegory accounts, and if you can't see that in order to even recognize what's being decoded, then you will never, ever come to the truth. And that's just a plain, bold fact. Okay? And so, again, I'm just trying to show everyone the pieces, the puzzle pieces, because this is how you put it all together. It's just bit by bit by bit by bit. So 21 encoded to Saturn, and he is coded as being a savage. And you'll see here, take note of this mark on his head, because this is the mark of Cain, which was known as the Tav, for whatever reason that God ordained that. Even though the word God is a very loose term, because creators create creators, and some people see Saturn as a god of this world. Some people see Jupiter as a god and as a lord of this world. They are lords, but they would also be coded as being gods. But the way that the way this creation structure works is from the micro to the macro. Creators create creators, and this has gone on for millions of years. And so who is the ultimate God? I don't know, but we can say who the God of this world is, and the Lord of this world. And you can say that is Satan. He has constructed this system with Jupiter. They are the twin pillars of this duality matrix. And so the question is, why is Saturn coded as being savage? Like I said, the Bible is a code book, and even the word Bible is encoded, because Bibles, it's the book of the Bibles, the two bulls, the twin bulls, Cain and Abel. So when you see this symbol, okay, this is for the left pillar of Saturn. This is the Saturn bull. This is the Jupiter bull. Okay, they are the Bibles. Now, Saturn is the bull of the Old Testament. He was the one who demanded animal sacrifices. He was the one known as being a smiter in judgment. And he's also responsible for laying down a heavy yoke upon the people through law. He established the law of Moses and many commands. Yahweh was the jealous God. This is his plantation. He is the title holder of this earth. That's why even in the film that I covered in the evidence, American Beauty, Buddy Kane, representing Saturn, was referenced as the king of real estate. And he's the king of real estate because Satan does hold the title to this earth. Now, it's not going to stay that way, but for now, he is the management of this system. But this music video is very vital and key because even the title of the song is key and potent because it shows that these two rocks are going to become stars when they ignite in their collision. And it is going to be Jupiter that is triumphant in being the dominant king for that new age as the prime sun in ignition. So there you see, just to show that I put in the search Tav, the mark of Cain, and there it is. These are all the symbols of the mark of Cain. And I'm going to focus on this pi symbol as well. But there you have it. So he is representing Cain, who is Saturn. And you'll also see another character who I decoded as being as Saturn. Frank in Scarface. He's also sporting the mark. Okay. And I'm going to include this scene in the description link because it's a good scene. It gives away a lot of information. So it really helps if you watch these evidence pieces in full. But just know that Tony is representing Jupiter and Frank and also the corrupt cop Mal are representing Saturn bodies. And that's why they're both on that side, on the one side. Okay, so I'm going to apply a correction here. And again, I've covered this film before. This was probably one of the most important films that has ever been released in terms of the cosmic mysteries that are unveiled, and also the mysteries that regarding Jupiter and Saturn being time travelers, just as is coded in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, how they're time travelers because they do travel through portals and they will be entering through portals in order to more greatly affect the earth. And this is where we go into the scripture of these system lords entering like a thief in the night, and how when the most drastic changes occur on the earth, it's going to be in the midst of these bodies going through portals and falling into our density. And I did cover the film Skyfall, the cosmic bodies that are going to be falling and accessing the earth plane during the celestial conjunction at which these extreme events occur. And we have also stated that Enlil being Jupiter, Enki being Saturn, but Enlil was the Lord that flooded the earth at Genesis in that account. And this film reveals that, and this scene in particular that I'm going to play. So listen carefully regarding the Christmas end age period, because Christmas represents and the New Year both represent the end of an age cycle period. This is why you have Santa Claus as Satan, when you anagram it, being the harvester. So Santa Claus represents one of the lords of harvest. He makes a record of who's naughty or nice because he's a watcher and he's a recorder, just as evidenced. Yeah. But listen to this saying because it's important.
What did you want for Christmas? How did you feel being denied these?
So I'm not sure if the audio came through, but he just referenced hungry, hungry hippos. And he's one of the hungry hippos, as is Saturn. And in this film, Saturn is represented by the bunny named Frank. And that's why I just showed you the Frank code in relation to Saturn, because that's a code name for Saturn. So this is just examples of how these codes correlate. And when you can decode the symbology and even the name codes, you can start to figure out what's being told and what account and what information is being released. So it is key if you want to know the truth, even if it's unpleasant.
Hungry for this. Regret. What else makes you feel regret?
That I did it again.
Okay. He's just stated there that he feels regret, and this is tied to the Lord of Genesis who flooded the earth, feeling regret after flooding the earth. But what he says here is that I did it again. And the information that that's giving is that what Jupiter did before, he's going to do again at the end of the age. And in this film, he sets fire and floods the school. And you will also see the axe in the dog's head shown in this film. And remember, the Tin Man was the axe carrier. And I did already decode that the Tin Man represents Jupiter. So the one holding the axe is Jupiter. And so he says, I did it again. And the fire representation is just as shown in that trailer, Greenland, that I covered in last round's evidence. This is why it's important and vital that you follow the evidence, because I'm putting all this together as like a puzzle. So if you want to make sense of it all, you've got to follow. I cannot emphasize this enough. You have to follow the evidence pieces. If you don't, this isn't going to make sense. So it's as simple as that.
We did it again.
I flooded my school and I burned down that pervert's house.
Now, he burned down the pervert's house. Now, the Jim Cunningham character in this film is representing another Saturn archetype, and he's coded as a pervert. It's his house. And just like dude, where's my car? The car represents Saturn's house. Because remember, dude is Jesse playing Saturn. And the car represents Earth. So him burning down the pervert's house. And like I said, Saturn's coded as a pimp, as shown in the film Taxi Driver. The character named Sport was an archetype of Saturn, and he was playing a pimp. All right, so you can say a pervert. And so again, this is just another example of how all these codes correlate. I'm not clutching at straws. Okay, I'm 100% correct on this. Okay, even though I did initially think that Donnie Darko was an archetype of Saturn, obviously because Donnie Darko was DD 4x4. I thought cube and dark, the dark cube, you know, it seemed to relate to Saturn. But again, they do perform a law of confusion, and unless you're proficient in these codes, it's very easy to make mistakes. I've gotten so much better at this, and I would hope so. You know, after being at this for 3 years, so but it's all coming together, and it has come together, and there's a certain satisfaction about that, and a relief, because it comes together perfectly, as difficult as this information is. So yeah, he's going to burn down the house because it's him in conjunction with Saturn that are going to bring meteors. That's why the trailer to Greenland showed both the twins in that opening trailer, because they're both responsible for electromagnetically flinging these comets and asteroids our way. So I just want to show the horse symbology and the harvesting materials and the watcher materials in evidencing.
You're the diamond in the rough, you will always be enough. Our connection is a spark that can heal a broken heart. Forever lost at sea, you're the wave that rescued me. You're the moon of my night, lead the way, my guiding light. We are the sun, hey, hey, we are the moon, hey, we are the sky, hey, hey, we are the stars. We are the sun, hey, hey, we are the moon, hey, we are the sky, hey, hey, we are the stars. We are the sky.